Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is brought to you by these great Saskatoon businesses: Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street, Dragon's Den Games on 8th Street, and Breakout Escape Rooms on Faithful Avenue. Well, hello there. How's it going, eh? This is Whatcha Been Playing Wednesday, and this is a special weekly episode that's a compilation of all the board games that we've been recently playing. And contributing on this episode are Dice & Dragons, All You Can Board, Mathew Legault of Scorpio Masqué, Kovray, Definitely a Board Game Podcast, Metal Meeples and Beer, Cardboard Conjecture, Friday Night Games, and Board on the Air. Time to hit Tim Hortons drive-thru for a double-double.
What up, gamers? I'm Jayson.
I'm Julie, and together we're Dice & Dragons.
And this is Whatcha Been Playing Wednesdays. We took a couple weeks off, but we are back, and today we're going to be talking about Scooby-Doo Escape from the Haunted Mansion, designed by Jay Cormier and Sen Phuong Lim, hopefully I pronounced that right, and published by the Op Games.
So this is a cooperative game that is for ages 12 and above, and it's for one or more players. There's actually I don't think I've seen a game like this before where you can have as many players as you want.
Yes, you have. House of Danger.
Oh,
Choose
there
your
you go.
adventure.
See, he's always correcting me.
Well, only when you're wrong.
Oh, okay.
And we even reviewed the game, so I mean.
Yeah. So yeah, we've had an injury in the family, which has kept us from being able to sit at a table and play games. So we were only able to play this game this week. So we'll talk to you a little bit about it.
Yeah, and we played it in two parts. And we completed the first part a couple of weeks ago, and we don't recommend that you do that. This game really sort of should be played in one sitting. It's designed that way. You can save it, but you may want to take some notes. But I would say that there's some subtleties that just make over your head unless you're playing the game all in one shot.
Or at least close together, like a Saturday and a Sunday. Or our plan was, we played it before lunch and we planned to play it after lunch, and it just didn't work out that way.
No, it did not.
So this, to talk more about the game itself, I would say this is a fun game to play with kiddos.
Yeah, it's definitely a family game. This is a Coded Chronicles game, so it's very easy to play, straightforward. You're going to be reading a lot from books as you attempt to solve the mystery and escape from the haunted mansion.
What I did enjoy is it really felt thematic to Scooby-Doo.
This feels exactly like an episode. It's written like an episode too.
And for that, it's a lot of fun. And I enjoyed reading the clues out of the book, the way that they're using the numbered coding, and how each character has that ability of either investigate or smell or eat.
Yep.
Use.
Some of them aren't as obvious as I would have liked. We actually missed an opportunity to eat with Shaggy, and it's very interesting because you'll not have the entire party for the whole game, so you're going to be focusing on different Mystery Inc. characters depending on where you're at in the game, which is exactly like an episode of Scooby-Doo because they always get separated. They're never all together, so it's really fun that way.
So I look forward to playing this. I mean, it says ages 12 and above, but I definitely think if you're playing this adults, you can play it with younger kids for sure. I think that it would actually probably be more fun that way. And I look forward to playing with our little guy at some point.
Yeah, it's going to be many years down the road, though.
Yeah, well, it'll sit on the shelf until then. Because for me, I say it'll sit on the shelf until then, because for me, I am not a big puzzles fan. I don't enjoy pulling out a puzzle and doing them. I never have. And there are quite a few little puzzles in this game that kind of annoyed me.
They're a little clunky, to be honest. So some stuff doesn't line up exactly right. There's actually an error in our copy of the game. When we saved it, we did miss something, and we were supposed to open Secret Envelope 3. So, not a spoiler, just if you are playing the game and you have not opened that envelope and you saved it and you're starting Chapter 2, you have to open it. Otherwise, you cannot advance in the game. And then the way the skeleton key is written, it says one thing, but in order to solve one of the clues, well, you don't follow what's written on the skeleton key's instructions. So there are some clunky things like that which are a little annoying, but it doesn't detract from the overall experience of the game.
Yeah, I think the game was fun. Like I said, it would definitely be fun as a family game for the two of us. I don't think this is our style of game to play often, just the two of us.
No, and this is very much a one and done. Like, we're going to be saving this to play with our little guy, but I have no problem lending this out to people that want to play it, that know that would take good care of it and that would get it back. Because once you play the game, you're not going to be taking this back out for a very long time.
Unless you have short-term memory issues.
Yes, very much so. If you have the memory of a goldfish, then yes, you can play this every weekend.
So that was our short gameplay week. If you want to catch our review, this review will be out not this week, probably next week.
Yeah, probably sometime next week, maybe over the weekend. We're trying to catch up on a few things since we had about 2 weeks where we were not producing new content. You still got some great content from us. It's just pre-film stuff. It was really only last week where we were missing a video, and I was a little disappointed about that. And disappointed we couldn't participate in the podcast.
So if you'd like to hear more or see more of our videos, you can catch us at Dice and Dragons at YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Yes, but it's Dice and Dragon on Twitter. Someone beat me to the S!
So again, thanks for listening, and see you next week.
Yeah, and don't forget...
Until then...
Keep playing games!
Hi everyone. This is Mathew Legault here from Scorpio Masqué, the Montreal-based board game publisher who is the only publisher with 2 number ones on Board Game Geek. Decrypto, the number 1 party game, and Zombie Kids Evolution, the number 1 kids game. Not bad, eh? Today I'm here to tell you about what I've been playing. Now, although I'd love to say that I decided to embark on the Felduary bandwagon because of what everybody on here has been saying all month, the reality is that I've been playing Feld games, well, I might even say obsessively, since this whole crazy COVID thing started nearly a year ago. I've been playing Castles of Burgundy on Yucatan nearly non-stop, either with friends in the evenings or with the video chat thing going on, or with strangers, making a couple of moves a day during breaks at work or while the kids are playing outside in the snow. I also tried Macau, but after a few plays I realized that the whole forward planning element of the rondel wasn't for me. I mean, don't even get me started on Zolkin. And the games all seem to follow a very formulaic path. Not for me. I also gave Foreign Trajanum a spin. But I didn't really like it. I mean, that was months ago, and I can't even remember now what it was that I didn't like about it so much, but I know that I never wanted to play it again, and neither did any in my group, so we left that aside. But there is one Feld game that I've been playing every single Saturday evening with friends now for over 3 months, and I was playing way back into the beginning of COVID as well, and that is Trajan. Now, in Trajan, you play, well, it's not really clear who you are in the game. The game takes place in Rome in the 2nd century AD, and you're someone who is trying to boost your power, it says in the rules. It's a Feld Euro. What do you want? An entire overdeveloped universe with a colorful cast of characters? I don't think so. But anyway, in Trajan, you can boost your power by doing a number of different actions. You can collect goods cards, you can do some set collection with them and then ship them to gain points, or you can move around a map of Europe and populate it with legionnaires. You can deploy builders into the city of Rome itself to collect sets of tiles for endgame bonuses. You can visit the forum to collect tiles that give you extra actions or otherwise help your cause. You can increase your influence in the Senate, which will give you access to end-of-game scoring tiles as well. Or you can visit the Arch of Trajan to take a Trajan tile, which will give you bonuses and victory points. So there you go, a wonderful, super easy potpourri of actions to choose from, tons of paths to victory. What a delight. Oh, wait, what? In order to select an action, you need to drop the last of your group of action markers into that space in a circular Mancala mechanism? Oh, okay. Now, for those of you who might not know, Mancala is an ancient game that some say dates back to ancient Egypt or even further, and consists of picking up tokens like stones or pebbles or beads or whatever in a bowl on a track, and then dropping them one by one into each bowl further along the track. You can probably see me doing that motion with my hand in front of the microphone right now. Now, the more tokens there are in a bowl, the further along the track you're going to go. Now in Trajan, they aren't bowls, they're 6 action spaces, and the track is a circle. So if you pick up 3 action markers, you'll drop them in every subsequent space, and then do the action of the 3rd space along the track where you dropped your last marker. Oh, and your markers are colored. So if you have a Trajan tile attached to that last action space, and you have 2 colors indicated on that tile, you get the bonus of the Trajan tile, as well as your normal action when you drop that last little marker in there. Now, the picking up and dropping of your action markers also serves as a time track, which determines the length of each quarter, of which there are 4 in the game, obviously, before the game ends, and you do your points calculation. So if you manage to organize your action markers just the right way, you can do powerful actions on your turn, chain combinations together, get your military leaders sweeping across Europe, dropping legionnaires behind them, while sending goods-laden ships off over the horizon, building sprawling neighborhoods in the Eternal City, and charging up the victory point track. Or you could end up with all your markers lined up so that they all fall on the same completely useless space that doesn't help my strategy at all. And how did I manage to do this? I mean, everything was going so well, but there they are. There's like 2 here, and 3 here, and 4 here, and they all land on the same space. The last little fly in the ointment is the fact that you need to meet the demands of your people, the Romans. And they are a fickle bunch. Sometimes they want games, sometimes they want bread, imagine, and sometimes they want religion. Or tons of religion and only a bit of bread. And you have to make sure that you have those things at the end of each quarter, or the people will make you pay. By removing victory points. Yes, it's still a euro. It all comes down to the victory points. What a game. Like, this game, like Castles of Burgundy, never grows old for me. Even though I rarely win, the delight of chaining together your Mancala moves to a series of super maneuvers is second to none. It is so satisfying. And despite my snide comments, the theme in the game really bleeds through, for me at least. And maybe it's because I played it so much that the theme has really kind of grown on me, but I really like it. There's so many paths to victory as well in this game, and the best way to win is really by doing a bit of everything, which fits my playstyle perfectly. There are few things, I should say, that I find less fun than specializing in one thing in a game and getting dragged along a log chute that I no longer have any control over and getting the feeling that the game is playing me. Trajan lets me dabble. Maybe this quarter I want to play politics and drive myself way up the Senate track. And then maybe throw in a bit of building on the side. And I can try my luck with the cards as well. And then when you throw in the mental puzzle of the colored action markers, this game is such a delight. Now, it's a heavier euro, and there's a bit of a learning curve, but it is well worth it for those of you who enjoy these games. Oh, and another reason I love playing this game is because whenever people do the build action in the city, I sing, "In the City, Whoa!" by Joe Walsh. You know, from the movie The Warriors, which has no relation to the game. But still, "In the city, woohoo." Damn it, Feld, you've done it again. So that's it for me. This is Mathew from Scorpion Masqué. Go and check out our games at scorpionmasqué.com. And when you're there, you can sign up for our monthly newsletter and get all the news and insights into our industry. Finally, thanks to the gang at Cardboard Conjecture for inviting me along. I'll see you all next time.
Hey there, this is Ian from the Cardboard Conjecture podcast. I've been doing some online gaming this week mostly on Board Game Arena and tried out a new game, or new to me anyway. I tried the 2-player version of Seven Wonders called Seven Wonders Duel for the first time. And I quite liked it. I had not played it before, even though I'm a huge Seven Wonders fan, because I'm not usually a big fan of these kind of 2-player versions, dice game versions of other games. So I just kind of let it go. Although Seven Wonders is a game that, even though it says it's 2 to 7 on the box, it's not. It's one of those games you should not play with 2 players. But luckily, this version is actually a pretty good two-player edition of one of my favorite games. So what I'm going to do is just talk a little bit about the differences and similarities between Seven Wonders and Seven Wonders Duel, at least from the first few games that I've tried out. The first thing that I realize is that you can't really do the card drafting as a two-player game. That's kind of lame, just passing a hand of cards back and forth. And so what Seven Wonders Duel does is that you set out the cards in this pyramid structure, and so you have to unlock the cards available by buying the cards before it, which is an interesting idea that kind of replicates the hand drafting and choosing one card and then letting your opponent choose whatever you've left behind. So that works really well. Another thing I noticed is that money seems to be hard to come by here because you don't trade or you don't lend people money for their resources like you do in regular Seven Wonders. And because of that, discarding your cards for $2 every time is actually a much bigger part of this game than it was of regular Seven Wonders, which I thought was actually pretty interesting. They also changed the science up a little bit, so it's not just a set collection of 3 of a kind and as many of one kind as you can get, like it is in Seven Wonders. In Duel, if you get 2 different symbols of a kind, you get these neat little bonus tokens that add a little bit of flair to the game that I like. And you also can win the game if you can collect all 6 symbols throughout the game, which I almost did in the last game. And the military, because the military, you're fighting with your neighbors in Seven Wonders, but in Seven Wonders Duel you have one neighbor and it's the only other player in the game. And so instead it's like a tug of war track, similar to, you might see it in something like Twilight Struggle, where if you score points you push it towards them, they score points, they push it towards you. And if they get it all the way to the end, they win a military victory, which might have happened to me last game. So I think that that's a pretty neat way to implement the military strategy as well. So all in all, I got to say this is a really good 2-player version of Seven Wonders. So Seven Wonders Duel, I know it's been out for a few years and it is very popular and has been considered one of the best 2-player versions of a game for a while now. But this is my first time actually trying it. So Seven Wonders Duel, if you're a big Seven Wonders fan and you haven't checked this one out, it really is worth it. Talk to you later.
Hello everybody, my name is Ilya.
And my name is Tylor. Together we make Kovray, a couple that loves board games.
Yeah! Thank you so much for having us at Whatcha Been Playing Wednesdays. We love our fellow Canadian content.
And we love talking about what we've been playing.
And we've been playing quite a lot this past week. Mm-hmm. We've been on a big roll and write kick lately, so we've been trying a lot of various games out of that, including Bravo, Fleet the Dice Game, Ripple Rush.
Yeah.
But today we want to talk to you about some of the bigger games we've been playing.
Exactly.
And that is Bloodstone by Skybound Tabletop and Sleeping Gods.
Yeah, exactly. I love both of them.
Ty, why don't you kick us off today?
Alright, I'll start by talking about Bloodstone. We were fortunate enough to do a Kickstarter preview for this game, and now that it's live, we get to be all excited even more and talk about it even more. But there's a lot of depth to the game. Basically what Bloodstone is it's a arena battle combat game with dice. And you'll pick from you'll pick from 8 characters and just go from there. You'll battle against each other or battle against the raid bosses that they have set up. And the whole premise of the story is that this queen has been corrupted, Queen Vanera, and she's basically just making you do these battles for her entertainment.
This big coliseum. It's
Yeah.
definitely very exciting, and we've played this game so many times in the past week.
Yes.
We got to battle the first 2 bosses, and the battles themselves are so interesting, and the mechanics with the dice are also quite intriguing too, because typically you think dice games is very luck focused, but they do a lot to kind of mitigate that luck element. So if you roll poorly, you get more benefits, but if you roll great, you also get to do these really cool grand gestures, which always makes it really fun.
Yeah, it's a great game, and I'm happy we got to play it.
I'm definitely looking forward to the campaign as well, as there's a novel accompanying the game, and they're releasing, I think, the first few chapters. Today they released the first chapter, so I think on the second day, which will be the Wednesday when this is being filmed, or this is being released, they have a second chapter coming out, which provides quite a lot of backstory to the game as well. And they have reveals almost every day, so I'm very excited to follow that campaign, because we don't know everything, so...
Yeah, don't forget that they're releasing more enemies as well, raid bosses, so I'm excited to see that, because, yeah, like Ilya said, we didn't get the chance to play through all the bosses.
But hopefully one day.
Yeah!
Now, the other game we want to talk about is Sleeping Gods. So this was a game we backed last year, and we actually just recently got fulfilled. It is done by Red Raven Games, Ryan Lockett, who we absolutely adore. Above and Below was one of our, almost you can say, gateway hobby games, because after that our collection really kept multiplying, and it's still multiplying.
Yeah.
But essentially what the game is in the early 1900s, you're trying to travel somewhere, but all of a sudden you're kind of entered this lost land, and you're trying to awaken the gods to be allowed to go back to where you're supposed to go. So it's an exploration narrative game. You have a ship and a crew of 8 folks, or 9 folks. So, and you're trying to get back in time, but it's really everything in this game. The mechanisms are absolutely genius. You have these cards that give you clues as where you want to go, and they use a keyword system. So if you arrive somewhere and you don't have the keyword, you can't really do anything. But there's a huge map. The amount of content in this game is just massive. And it's quite replayable as well. There's, I think, 12 different endings. You can use the information you learned last time to kind of try again. So we're very excited. We're a third of the way through our first run of the campaign, but I'm sure this is going to be a game we're going to play many, many more times.
Yeah, even just like through the couple of playthroughs we've gone through, it seems that the game is going to be relatively evolving throughout. So as Ilya mentioned, there may be multiple endings, and I'm sure that if you go one way, you'll reach one ending. If you go another way, you'll reach a completely different ending. So I'm really excited, because it's like you can go back to the fork in the road and then say, instead of doing this, maybe I'll do this time. And who knows, it could be a whole different outcome.
And there's a whole achievements sheet too that you can go through. So, and we got the expansion as well, so we'll definitely be playing this one quite a lot. And I think the thing that really again sticks out for me is that in a lot of narrative games, I find there's some maintenance or some of the gruesome things you have to go through. Like I'll give for example, like a Seventh Continent has an amazing exploration system, but keeping yourself filled with food is a bit annoying at times. This game, everything is very immersive, and there's none of that really filler piece. Like each turn you're doing something exciting. Even when you're feeding, or even when you're maintaining your crew trying to survive, it doesn't feel like a chore.
Yeah, it's a really fun game.
Well, that's all we've been playing this week.
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Tylor. This is my partner, Ilya. Together we make up Kovray, and if you're interested in learning more about us or checking out the content we make, you can check out Kovray.com or at Kovray at most of our social handles, so YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
And feel free to check out our recent YouTube video on Bloodstone, where we chatted a bit more in depth about it.
Yeah, see if you're interested in backing it.
Well, hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks so much for having us this lovely Wednesday.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi, I'm David.
And I'm Shea.
And we are Board on the Air, and this is What Have You Been Playing? On tonight's show, we are going to talk about Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion.
Yes, I don't know if it was long awaited, but well received sequel/prequel to the award-winning Gloomhaven.
Yes, this is the game that everybody said should have been the first version of Gloomhaven.
Absolutely, yeah. And some backstory on Gloomhaven for us. I really wanted to play it because I love the idea of kind of a dungeon crawler, campaign style game. I thought it was really neat. We got the game and we set it up and we did the first. It was like the trial one, right? Like it was the first one that's supposed to get you into it. And we failed miserably.
Yeah, we got steamrolled hard.
So then we didn't touch it for a while and we were like, okay, we got to figure out how we're going to get this game back up and running. And then my mom decided, recommended that we get Jaws the Lion. She thought it would be a good idea when it came out. And we played through 4 games today.
Yeah, we did the first 4 missions. For those of you not familiar with Jaws the Lion, it came out significantly after Gloomhaven, 2 years after it. Yeah. And it was marketed for Target and to an entry level. I've never played Gloomhaven before. This is to get you hooked so that you can play Gloomhaven better.
Yeah.
The first 5 missions are just teaching the game to you. And we finished the 4th one. Mm-hmm. And they've gotten progressively a little bit harder each time.
Yep.
Or we're just really bad at the game.
Possibly.
And we had a really good time. We played 4 missions in the same day. Took us about 4 or 5 hours.
Oh yeah, we started in the afternoon and we finished around 9:40.
Yeah,
so.
we started playing and all of a sudden it was 9:40 and we're like, maybe we should have some supper.
Yeah, no, it was awesome, right? And I don't think this game takes away from Gloomhaven. It does teach you how to play it. Gloomhaven is still, I think, fantastic. Like, it won awards for a reason, right?
Yeah.
It's just, if you haven't played a game that's that intense before or that style, and there's not a lot out there like it, it's very hard to just jump into. Whereas this one is much better set up to teach you the rules of the game bit by bit, and then you kind of get into the harder missions after you've learned everything.
Yeah, having played the first mission in Gloomhaven before, I found that the card play aspect of it took quite a bit to get used to that play.
Yeah.
And this one eases you into it a bit more, so you're more comfortable when it gets tougher.
Yeah, because you start off with a smaller deck of cards, then you add some cards to it, then you replace some of those cards, and then you get to the more complex cards, and you add some more to that, so that I think in the next mission we get to pick which cards we want.
We're building our deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's you definitely get used to reading the cards throughout each scenario.
Yeah, and the different aspects of how the monsters move, mm-hmm. How they attack, mm-hmm. All of the nuances that Gloomhaven throws at you. And, that being said, Gloomhaven does have a great rule book. We were able to learn it and play it fairly error-free from what I could tell. And this one is just reinforcing that.
Yeah.
But it's spoon-feeding you a little bit.
That's the thing. There's nothing wrong with Gloomhaven.
No.
It's just a lot.
Well, picking up a game that has 98 missions in it is a little overwhelming.
And there's so many things in it. So this one is nice. It's a smaller box. Those of you who know Gloomhaven, it's huge.
Yeah.
So this is a much more normal-sized game box.
Well, it's really the game box that people base everybody's size on until Anachrony Infinity Box came out.
Yeah.
Right? Which is that next level past that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we had a very good time, as we said. We played a lot today, but it went by very fast. It was not that we were sitting here and at no point did somebody say, well, we should probably shut it down.
Yeah, we were all just like, okay, let's do the next one, right?
We had help from Mr. Rodney Smith and Watch It Played. We watched a video, played it, finished the video, and then moved on to the next one.
Yeah, he has a 5-part series. Each video is an explanation for the scenario.
Yep.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yeah, he goes through how to set up the scenario, whatever the new rules are in that game versus what was in the last game, and kind of some tips for it. And then we usually paused it, and the end of the game talks about what you're adding in at the end of that scenario.
Yeah, what your bonuses are and stuff like that. And, I thought, as a series of videos, this was extremely well done. Not that any of his stuff isn't extremely well done, but to help us through Gloomhaven, we didn't read the rulebooks for Jaws of the Lion at all.
No.
We had one game experience about 8 months ago.
Was it that soon? I thought it was longer than that.
It might have been more than 8 months ago. So our recollection of how the game played is minimal.
Yeah.
And it just flowed so well.
Absolutely. And you know what? The game was really easy to play itself.
Yeah.
Like we've been kind of talking about comparing it to Gloomhaven, but honestly, the game is so fun. The idea of the Gloomhaven games where you have your map and you're fighting, like there's a story and you're fighting enemies. But there's also treasure that you can collect and gold and items you can pick up. It's very Diablo-esque. Diablo the video game, right? Where you're leveling up your character and going through fighting missions and stuff like that.
Yeah, where I kill everything and everybody comes and steals the treasure.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we already figured out that's exactly what we're doing again.
Yeah. Nice thing about this one is when you finish it, you can integrate parts of this game into the full Gloomhaven version, and it tells you how to do that. So you're not out the $65 that the game costs, which is very, very reasonable for what you're getting.
That's actually really reasonable for this game compared to some games that cost $65.
Exactly. Okay, I'm David.
And I'm Shea.
And we are Board on the Air, where you can catch us on CFCR every Thursday at 6 p.m. And we will talk to you next week.
Have a good night.
Hey folks, I'm Ryan of Bridge City Board Gamers, and I'm 1/3 of the weekly podcast Cardboard Conjecture, where we offer our opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. We are active on Twitter and Instagram, where you can follow us at BC Board Gamers. And we started uploading some videos onto our YouTube channel. Just search up Bridge City Board Gamers, where you can see some unboxing videos, along with a show called Jabs, just another board game show. This week, I would like to once again highlight some Stefan Feld games that my wife and I have been playing for Felduary. Yes, just like I mentioned last week, we've made the decision to play only Stefan Feld games for the month of February. Because why not? He's our favorite designer. So the first game I'd like to highlight is Bruges, released in 2013 by Z-Man Games. Bruges is one of those games where you are not going to be attracted to the look of the game, but rather probably the gameplay. At its heart, Bruges is a card game with multi-use cards. Cards come in 5 different colors and can be used to take one of 6 possible actions. Yes, you heard me correctly, 6 different actions. They can be used to recruit workers, take money, build a house, discard a threat, build a section of canal, or place a character in a house. Oh yeah, each card has a unique character on it, and all have a slight twist on what kind of ability they grant you. Some are worker replacement actions, some are instant actions, some are end-of-game scoring opportunities, and everything in between. Bruges is played over several rounds, where you will have a hand of 5 cards at the beginning of the round and will play 4 cards during that round. The planning it takes to carry out certain actions is tense and satisfying, as you need to follow sort of a recipe at times. There are a few ways to score points throughout the game, but one I find intriguing are the majorities. At the end of a round, you will compare yourself to other players at the table on 3 different categories: the length of your canal, position on the reputation track, and how many people you have in houses. If at the end of a round you have the clear majority in 1, 2, or even all 3 of those categories, you can claim that you had majority at one point in time in the game to score 4 points. If you play like me, you'll most likely claim 1 right off the bat, another one in the mid-game, and then maybe never claim that 3rd one. Bruges is also a game of finding synergies amongst your cards. I'm a fan of finding those worker placement type cards to trigger other actions on my turn. As long as I keep taking actions to claim more workers. I usually don't focus too much on building out my canal sections, though there are big points to be had there, as when you complete a section of the canal, you can claim a statue tile that is worth points at the end of the game, and they start off with big points and decrease in value as more are claimed. I've always had a lot of fun with Bruges for what it is. And I know it's not the most popular Feld game out there. A lot of players will get hung up on the RNG of the cards. When you draw cards, they come from one of two stacks, and you only can see the colors of the cards that is being drawn. You may be looking for a specific color to, fill out your canal, gain a certain type of worker, or discard a certain type of threat, and that color just does not come up for you. That's a problem. I do have for this game, but it does not have to. I don't mind the randomness at all. Apparently, some of this is going to be addressed in the new version of Bruges called Hamburg, being released by Queen Games later this year as Steffenfeld's City Collection. The other game I like to talk about is Aquasphere. It came out in 2014 and published in North America by Tasty Minstrel Games. Aquasphere is a much heavier Feld design and where there's lots of forethought that needs to happen to play the game efficiently. I would put this game in the realm of kind of like a, action programming game, where you're programming bots to carry out certain actions for you. But you can only carry out an action if you have the associated bot ready. The main way to program a bot is to progress up what I call a quote-unquote tech tree each round, where their actions are randomly placed around a board. Once you have some bots ready to go, it's time to make them work. Simply take your engineer meeple and place them on one of the 6 sections of the board and carry out the associated action. Now, what are all the actions? Well, you can have a bot to claim time tokens. And time tokens allow you to move from one section of the board to another section. You can program a bot to place a submarine, and submarines help you score some points at the end of each round. You can claim crystals, and I'll get to what those do a little bit. Claim a lab extension that increases your storage of goods and other things. You can claim a research card that makes certain actions more efficient. You can also clear away octopods to score points. After you've taken a bunch of actions in a round, there will be some intermediate scoring. During this phase, you'll score points for having a majority of bots on the main board, how many bots you've deployed, and how many crystals you have. And of course, you're also going to lose points if you're ever occupying an area that still has octopods. Now, while scoring points on the point track, something very interesting happens. You see, there's a red line every I think it's about every 13 points, where in order to cross that line, you must pay a crystal. Now, if you can't pay a crystal, you have to pay a programmed bot. If you can't pay that either, you simply just stop, and you lose all remaining points. Bonus though, if you can manage to cross one of those red lines, you can't fall below it. Very advantageous if you know you're going to lose a lot of points because of octopods. Now, you're going to proceed like this for 4 rounds, and then the end of game scoring happens where you're going to score us a bunch of more points, for, things that are in your lab and leftover resources and such. Now, I remember Aquasphere being a very frustrating game when I first learned it years ago, and I think I even hated it at one point. But after many more plays, it grew on me. I could see the intricacies in the actions and the planning that needs to take place in order to do well. You need to go into the game with a semi-plan and try to execute that plan efficiently. Now, sometimes the tech tree doesn't seem to be in the right order for your actions, but there will always be something for you to do. Aquasphere finally is resting in my top 10 Feld games of all time, and I have very little to complain about it after all those initial frustrating games. At times, this game is very AP, and is the AP player's worst nightmare. With times players need to sit there for quite a few moments to math out their most optimal plays. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, just something to keep in mind. Well, that's what I've been playing this week. I'm Ryan from Cardboard Conjecture Podcast, and you can find our show on iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Podbean. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter to see what we've been playing up to lately. Also, check out our recently revitalized YouTube channel, Bridge City Boardgamers. Okay, folks, that's enough of me fumbling around with my words this week. See you next week.
Hey everyone, I'm Dylann, and I am one half of All You Can Board. Carlo, the other half of All You Can Board, is missing this week, but he will be back on the next one that we are a part of. But I am really happy to be here and to talk about what I've been playing. If you don't know All You Can Board, you can find us at www.allyoucanboard.com. We're also on YouTube and Twitter and all the social media channels. So feel free to hit us up there. We'd love to talk to you. But yeah, so what have I been playing? What I've been playing in the last few days has been Sumatra, which is a new Reiner Knizia game from publisher Ludo Nova. It is a ton of fun. I can't stress that enough. So I'm a huge Reiner Knizia fan as it is. So most of his games resonate with me and I usually have a lot of fun with. This one, I didn't really know what to expect. It seems very, very simple when you read the rules. You almost don't know what the strategy is. You know how to play and you sit down and start playing and you think, how is this going to go? Because I'm not really sure exactly. I know what I'm trying to accomplish and I know how I'm going to win, but I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get from point A to point B here. So basically in this game, you're traversing the island of Sumatra, which is the largest island in Indonesia, and you're moving around the map with your opponents. And at every spot you go to, there's going to be a new amount of tiles that are put on the table available to everyone. And you're going to be picking those tiles to be able to bring them into your notebook. And every tile has a different category associated with it. And those categories are going to score differently. And so you'll have a strategy based on which type of tiles you're grabbing and which ones you're competing with your opponents for. So it seems simple that way, but there's this extra layer of strategy because there is this notebook token in addition to the player pawns on the map, and depending if you are on the same spot as the notebook token, ahead of it or behind of it, you're going to get a different set of actions that you can carry out on your turn. So if you're behind the notebook, you actually have to spend your entire turn just moving up to catch up to it. So it's this thing where you do not want to fall behind unless you absolutely have to. Whereas if you're ahead of the notebook, that will actually refresh the stock of tiles and your opponent or opponents are left trying to catch up to you. So you can actually choose not to take tiles and rather move ahead because it puts the pressure on your opponents to decide, do I want something badly enough from what I'm seeing on the table to fall behind the notebook and essentially lose a future turn? Or do I have to race ahead as well because my opponents put the pressure on me to do so? So it seems like this simple thing, but it really adds this extra depth to it where if I don't want any of the tiles that are out, or I know that my opponents really want a lot of them, I can just push ahead to really make them think about what they're going to do or rethink their strategy. And at the same time, there's a limit to the amount of each tile that's in the bag. So I think there's something like 100 tiles total. But for instance, the volcano tiles, which are a pretty valuable one, there's only 5 in the entire bag. And so if you're playing this at 3, 4, or even 5 players, suddenly there is this huge competition to try to score these tiles because there are so few of them. And if one of them comes up, everyone is going to be trying to grab one, especially if it's in their strategy or something they've set up for. So it's a really, really simple game, but it's surprising how much it really makes you think, and it actually moves pretty quick too. So especially at 2 players, you're going to be finishing a game in probably like 45 minutes. I think on the first time I ever played this game, it clocked in at under an hour. So I'm assuming that after you've played it a few times and you're familiar with the rules, this can be flying by. Obviously, with more players, it'll be a little bit longer. But overall, I really, really have enjoyed this game. And shameless plug, but we do have a how to play video for it that we just put out on our channel. So if you're looking at how to play Sumatra, or you're just wanting to learn a little bit more about it and see a full rundown of everything there is in the game, you can check that out on all of our channels. Besides Sumatra, I am still, like I have been for the last X amount of months, playing Marvel Champions solo. I really, really enjoy playing Marvel Champions solo. I think it's one of my favorite solo games. The new hero pack, Quicksilver, recently came out, I think about 2 weeks ago, or just over 2 weeks ago. And I'm really, really enjoying playing Quicksilver. Thematically, it's one of the most thematic characters, I would say. Quicksilver obviously being super, super fast. His ability is that he gets to essentially have, if you're not familiar with Marvel Champions, you have these basic attacks and basic abilities you can do in your turn, and Quicksilver essentially gets to double dip on these because of the fact that he's so fast, and other cards in his hand will allow him to do even more, like 3, 4, 5 of them. So thematically, it ties together super, super well. And even though I don't think he's necessarily the strongest hero that I've used in Marvel Champions, in fact, I know he's not the strongest one, in my opinion, but he is one of the most fun heroes I've played so far. And I think it's just so darn interesting how many ways they find to bend the rules of this game and add new thematic ties in with new heroes and new ways to sort of, take a game that's been out for over a year now, a year and a half almost, and find new ways to reinvigorate it and keep it fresh and keep it fun. So I'm still having a ton of fun with it. If you haven't checked out Marvel Champions, I would highly recommend it, especially if you're into any sort of card games or have been in your life, whether it's Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh or any of them, or any of the other LCGs like Arkham Horror or Lord of the Rings. There's a lot to love here, and there's a really, really low barrier to entry. So though that's what I've been playing, Sumatra, Marvel Champions. I have been playing also Renature, but I'm going to leave that to a future discussion because I've only played one game of it, and even though I absolutely loved it, it's one I want to talk about with Carlo because we played it together and we were both blown away. So I'll leave that as a tease for the next time we talk. Once again, I am Dylann from All You Can Board. You can find us at www.allyoucanboard.com. We would love to see you around our channels and to chat, so feel free to drop by and drop us a line. Otherwise, thanks for listening.
Okay, I'm Matt.
And I'm John.
And we're Friday Night
Games.
So you can find us on Instagram at Friday Night Games _official, Twitter at Friday Night GMS, Twitch at Friday Night GMS, our website at FridayNight.games, and you could search us on YouTube now too. So check us out.
All right, we're here to talk about what we played.
Wrong.
This week, what we love about it, what we hate about it. Obviously, how we played it wrong, because that's just so you know. Every game's got so many rules now; it's hard to play anything right.
Oh man, wait until we talk about this one.
All right, Matt. What did we play this week?
Well, I played Ascension, and I started playing Aeon's End, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Batman, the animated series, and the module we played was Shadow of the Bat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So Batman the Animated Series is a scenario-based story game, where you take on characters from the Batman Animated Series universe and play in a sort of D&D style game.
You can play as the villain or the heroes in a competitive mode, or you can play a cooperative mode versus an AI-controlled opponent.
Characters have special ability cards that you select before you go into combat. You roll dice to determine what actions you can do during your turn, like move, attack, inspect, etc.
You play through a bunch of episodes, and each episode has a bunch of acts. They have objectives which you need to complete to win each act in the episode, and it kind of plays out from the animated series itself in a thematic way, which is super cool.
Yeah, there's a lot to the game, so just understand that you are playing a game with a grid-based combat and dice that uses abilities, and rounds consist of rolling dice, fighting, moving, villain turn, and then everything sort of resets.
Yeah, just think of it as playing D&D. There's a million rules. You just kind of have to jump into it first, and that's how you're going to go through it. You just jump into it, you play it, you know it's D&D, you know you're going to screw everything up, and just do it.
Well, besides screwing it up, why do we love
Well,
it?
what do you think, John? Why do you love it so much?
I just love it. Obviously, it's Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just anything Batman I'm a sucker for.
I grew up with Batman the Animated Series, one of my favorite cartoons growing up, and so I love it too. Yeah. I'm glad that they made a game of it, to be honest.
It's pretty iconic TV show. So, and plus Kevin Conroy is like, that's the voice of Batman.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think anyone compares to the voice of Batman. So
no, I absolutely agree with that. I think his voice is what is in my head when I think of Batman. So that's super cool. Yeah. Game wise, I think it's like super D&D-ish. It's like D&D light. And I really like it in that aspect. It's a long game. I'm not going to lie. It's a long game, but it plays out really well. And it's cool that you can play a villain versus heroes, which we didn't play. We played co-op only, but
right.
I think that's cool that you could do that. I also love the fact that it's based on the show, and they're releasing an expansion to it also. I know it comes out. It hasn't come out yet. We played on Tabletop Simulator. It comes out this year. It was on Kickstarter last year in January. But yeah, I really like the idea that they could just keep throwing in anything from the animated series. I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
I just like it. It's cool. The miniatures look really cool. The story was pretty neat. We played a story where you have to save a bunch of hostages that were gassed by the Joker. They're pretty much paralyzed, but they are aware of their surroundings. And then one of the hostages has a bomb around their neck, so you have to save the hostages and deactivate the bomb and destroy all the bad guys. So it was a neat little story. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and when we played it twice, same act of the same episode, and we won, but we don't know how well we did. We came down to the wire the first game, and then the second game we're kind of kicking its butt because we kind of knew how to play a lot better. So.
Yeah.
So on that note, John, how did we play it wrong?
I don't even know.
The question is, how did
we started playing it? I don't know.
I'm like, how did we play it? How do we play it right? Maybe that's the real question, right? Did we play it right?
I still don't know. I know. We roll the dice and then set.
So okay, so that is when you roll the dice, you can actually you're supposed to line them up. Because people who are adjacent to you can use your outer dice. You have 3 dice. You roll the dice. There's one that go on the edge. There's 2 that go on the edge. 1 that goes in the center. The 2 on the edge are shared between all the players, so you can strategically place which dice in certain locations so other people can use it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
We didn't do that. We were just roll, place. We didn't even care.
I mean that's probably just easier to do on Tabletop Simulator than moving stuff around. So
right, but if you're gonna play the game fully, you're gonna strategize that way.
I know the bat symbol. So on one of the dice, one of the sides of the dice is a bat symbol. So you're supposed to gain focus. And then roll battle die for health, and we just gained the health, not the focus.
Right. When we did our first playthrough, our second playthrough, we obviously fixed that. But there's a lot to know. There's a movement penalty we didn't even realize in the first game that when you're surrounded by enemies, to move through them, you actually lose 1 movement point per enemy.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm like, wow.
But did we try to move through an enemy at all?
We did in the first game. We did, and
did we?
Yeah, we just ignored it because we didn't know. Right? There's so many rules.
Yeah. I don't know.
There are other movements we didn't do. So on that reference card, you can actually pay 2 movement legs, and those 2 movement legs will actually skip you ahead 3 or 4 spaces without any movement penalties.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, it's pretty neat. So the other thing that we screwed up was line of sight. So basically, line of sight is from center of a space to another space. We didn't do that properly. You can spend focus to re-roll the battle dice. I didn't know that. You can also spend focus to re-roll your own dice, but only once.
I feel like you said that in the rules when we were explaining it, but I just Tabletop Simulator, it just adds so much time anyway. So to do stuff like that, it just seems almost I don't want to say pointless, but unnecessary. If I don't know. You did say that rule. I remember you saying it, and I'm just it's just going to take up extra time that we're already wasting playing on Tabletop Simulator anyway.
Yeah, playing on Tabletop Simulator is going to take you a long time, and that just adds to it. Yeah, totally. Also, the ranged attacks, and we actually screwed this up this game too, because when you're doing the everyone's the same, right? You have to move, for instance, the gunners are ranged. You actually have to move them away to fire, and I was just leaving them in the spot and firing, so that was wrong.
Whatever.
Yeah, and then we did a couple range attacks where we're right next to each other, but I'm I don't even care. Just you're right. We'd be here forever playing it, right? Especially when we just got off the stream, and when you do it on the stream, you're okay, we need to get through this because this is a 3-hour game. We only have an hour and a half. We want to get through it, right?
All right.
Our first game, the utility. So any character that has a utility belt, you can. So usually it tells you how many special action cards you start with. You can actually remove one if you have a utility belt, and you can get 4 gadgets, and those gadgets are only used once per game, which is super cool.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we play this right the second game. If you have an action card that has an infinity at the top, those are always in play. Those abilities always go. When we played the first time, we thought we actually had to play those cards, and we screwed that up. And finally, special action. We couldn't. So the special action is you can investigate the cake. You can save hostages. When we were playing, we didn't realize that you couldn't do that if there was an enemy next to you, because it's like you're under pressure.
Okay.
And we were doing it versus the Joker. That's kind of how we won. And we're like, oh, we shouldn't have been doing that. But oh well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, next time.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's a next time. Yeah. So what do we hate about it, Matt?
Oh, John, bajillions of rules. I gotta be honest. So like before we played tonight, so I read the rule book and I totally didn't remember everything. We played the game and I kind of figured out a lot of it through playing the game. I actually had to go and review a half an hour video, which kind of like helped me remember more specifics to the rules. So I'm like, oh, this is what we did wrong. That's what we did wrong. Oh man. So there's just so many rules. So many rules, but it's good. It's a really, if you like D&D types games, you're going to like it. It's just, you have to get, you have to maybe play it a couple times before you can really understand everything. Don't go in your first time thinking you're going to understand everything. What about you?
I just think I think maybe just my gripe with it is that we played on Tabletop Simulator and it took so long to play. And like you said, with a bunch of rules and stuff, it's kind of like hard to navigate when you just want to start playing, I guess, right? So it's a little bit cumbersome at first, but I mean, other than that, I enjoyed playing it. I like the Batman games, and I like that it's based off the animated series, which is what we grew up with as kids. That's about it. I just wish that we had it on the table so that we can actually play it.
Yeah, I wish we played it in person too. And I totally agree. Like, my verdict is that if you're a big fan of Batman and you're a big fan of the animated series, it's almost a must-have to play. It is very D&D like, so it could be like a D&D light kind of concept. So it's not quite D&D, but it has a lot of things there, like movement over different areas and how far away someone is for you to attack them. So it has all those rules. So if you like D&D and you really like Batman, this is like a good merger for it, and it could actually bring you into the the tabletop RPG universe, basically.
For sure. Cool. All right, we are Matt and John, and we are Friday Night Games. Don't forget, you can check us out on our podcast that streams on all major streaming platforms every Friday. You can look us up on Instagram at Friday Night Games _official, Twitter at Friday Night GMS, Twitch at Friday Night GMS, and our website, FridayNight.Games. Thanks, everybody.
Hello, everybody. It's Rob from Meeples and Beer again. I'm joined with my wife, Anna Marie.
Hello.
And we are doing the Whatcha Been Playing Wednesdays podcast. Again, this is about the 6th or 7th or 8th time in a row here. And we are going to concentrate on Family Day. It was Family Day yesterday, and we played a bunch of family games, and we're going to concentrate on two of those. One of our oldest and most favorite family games, as well as one of our newest favorite family games. We're going to start with the new one. It's called Cabot, the Elusive Unicorn card game. It's designed by Melissa Limes and Mandy Henning, and published by Bezier Games, and it is a 2 to 4 player card game. So this game is kind of, you have some hidden information. It's really cool. So you get dealt 4 cards per player, and you have them face down in front of you. Your hand is face down in front of you on the table, and you get to look at 2 of those cards and only 2 of those cards, and you only get to look at them briefly, and you got to memorize what those 2 cards are, or you should if you want to try to win the game. So yeah, we would both say, if Anna Marie and I were both playing it, we'd both look at 2 of our cards, and then we would either draw from the pile, or we would take the discard, the top of the discard pile. And what you're doing is you're trying to reduce your hand to the lowest amount possible by drawing a card and slipping it into your hand face down and replacing one of the cards that you had on there. Say you had a 12, you wanted to get rid of it, and you drew a 3. You would take that 3, put it in place of the 12, and discard the 12. And those cards are really cool because some of the cards have powers added on them. So you could spy underneath your opponent's cards to take a look underneath one of them. You can peek underneath one of your own, or you could even swap one with one of your opponents.
Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of like a good luck, bad luck, and push your luck game, because you're either on a streak and you're like, yes, you're getting all the low cards. They also have a cool little ability in there where if you have multiples of the same number, so if you have like 2 4s or 3 4s or 4 4s, you can, if you remember the locations of where they are, and let's say you pick up a 2, you can swap out that 1 2 for those 3 4s, so you can take your score down quite a bit. But if you don't remember where those 4s are and you get one of them wrong, you have to keep those 3 4s plus the 2.
Right.
So you're adding cards instead of getting rid of.
So it's got some really interesting things like that. If you can end up with more cards than you want when you're trying to get rid of cards, and so forth. And when you think you have the lowest hand, if you think you have a lower hand than your opponent across the table from you, you're going to call Cabot. And when that happens, your opponent gets another turn, and they get to try to finalize their hand, and then you flip over your cards. And if you do have the lowest hand as the one calling Cabot, you actually end up with 0 points, and your opponent will just have whatever amount that they have over there. Could be maybe 9 or 10 points or something like that. But if you call Cabot and you don't have the lowest, you get 10 points added to your cards that are laying in front of you. So if you had 4, you would end up with 14 points if you were in fact not the lowest. So it's really cool that way. It's really, really, really neat game, really unique, and one of my new favorite card games.
Oh yeah! As soon as somebody reaches 100, game ends, and then whoever has the lowest amount of points wins.
Yeah. The 100 points finishes the game, and whoever has the lowest point at that point.
It can flip flop so quickly too.
It does.
It's so fun.
It's so good. Yeah, we've played a whole bunch of it lately, and we highly recommend it. But we're going to move on from Cabot to one of our oldest and most favorite games out there, and that's Forbidden Desert from Matt Leacock. And it was published by Game Right Games, and Matt Leacock of the fame of Pandemic and the other Forbidden games like Forbidden Island, Forbidden Sky. But Forbidden Desert is one of our absolute favorite games of all time, and I'm going to let Anna Marie tell you why.
Yeah, that game, and not just ours, our whole family, like both of our boys, we just love it. It's great. It's so much fun. You've basically crashed in the desert, and you need to build up a flying machine so that you can fly out of the desert. So you have to find all the pieces, and you're on a board that's made up of tiles, and you're moving around, and there are conditions. If a certain thing happens to one of your players at any given time, the game you lose. So
you could run out of water. If one of us runs out of water, we all lose.
And you're running from a storm that's increasing all the time. It's always getting stronger. So you have these storm cards, and one will say like storm picks up, and then you have to draw more of these storm cards, and they move the storm around. So they'll say, oh, the storm is moving up or over to the left, to the right, it's moving down. And as you move these tiles around, you're adding sand to the tiles. Yep. And if you run out of sand tiles to place,
the sand is an ever-growing threat. You can see it piling up, and if you run out of sand tiles and too much sand is on the board, you lose. If the sun comes out and scorches you, what is it? Sun beats down comes out, and it beats you down, and you drop your water levels down. If one of you loses all your water, you die, you lose. And the whole time you're trying to uncover the little parts for your flying machine to try to assemble it to get out of here before that happens.
Yeah, and if you do find all of the pieces, which again they're pointed to by the tiles, they tell you where to find the pieces. Once you find them, then you go collect them. If you collect all of the pieces of your ship and make it back to the landing pad, keep in mind all of you have to make it back to the landing pad.
Everybody has to.
Then you win, but that doesn't happen all the time. It's very difficult, but that it's a co-op game, which is nice. You're playing together. You all have input on what you're doing, and each player has a unique player ability.
Absolutely.
So it helps to navigate the perils of the desert. So
there's the climber, the water guy.
Water guy can give players water. The climber can go to block tiles,
and they're all super useful, which is really nice. Although the water guy is almost always essential. Yeah. But all the other ones are really good in their own right as well. We played this game. I would say this game we've played the most out of any game in our collection.
Absolutely.
And it's all ripped and worn out, and just shows that we love this game.
And it's not a win all the time. Like it's probably 50-50.
Yeah, I would wager about 50-50.
It's just so much fun to play.
And we're just going to continue to play it. And we have all the forbidden games from the series, but this one is by a long shot our favorite. And we are out of time here again. So, again, this has been Rob and Anna Marie from Metal Meeples and Beer. You can find us on Twitter at Metal Meeple Beer and on YouTube for unboxings and things like that. And we'll see you next week. Cheers.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Hello, I'm Aaron Millick.
And I'm Royce Calverley.
And we're definitely a board game podcast. A podcast definitely about board games, except when it isn't.
That's right. And it's Aaron. And it's Wednesday. So, Aaron, what you been playing?
Is it Wednesday?
Yeah, it's Wednesday.
How do you know anymore?
Well, because I just took a nap and forgot we were recording, and then you woke me up and said, hey, it's Wednesday. It's time to record.
That's true. I did know it was Wednesday. What have I been playing? All kinds of stuff, but... it's funny. The last time we were on here, you were talking about Canadian games and Canadian designers, and I was like, you know what? I should check my collection and see if I have any Canadian stuff. And apparently, I have, at least one that I know you've heard of, and I think most of these listeners have heard of. It's called.
I feel like this is a little bit mean.
Is it? Why?
Because you were the one that talked about Canadian designers, not me, and you're just rubbing it in again that I forgot I was going to do a Canadian designer.
Well, I didn't even know we were supposed to, so I just...
No, we weren't. It was just a nice coincidence the first time. This time it's feeling a little bit like, I'm still doing Canadian, you're not.
Well, that wasn't my intention. I was just... you just sort of drew my attention to it, and I'm like, do I have any Canadian... designers that have done my games? And the truth is, yes, I have one. It's called Sagrada or Sagrada. I don't know. Do you know what it's called? Sagrada.
Yeah.
Sure. It probably means something.
I didn't know Sagrada had a Canadian designer.
Daryl Andrews apparently is Canadian.
Oh.
The other guy, Adrian Adamescu, is not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But Sagrada is a great game. I got it at Christmas time, and it's been been on my list for a while. I was very excited to get it, and I really enjoyed it. It's actually a pretty quick game. I've only had a chance to play it as 2 players, as I'm sure everyone understands what I'm talking about there. But I've played it with my mom and my wife, and both enjoyed it. Essentially, you're drafting colored dice and filling out your stained glass window. And there are mutual goals. You can achieve your own goals, and there are also tools that will help you in case you make a mistake. So the main challenge in this game is while you're drafting dice, you can't put 2 numbers that are the same next to each other orthogonally, which is not a real word. I don't care what anyone says. And and also, you can't put 2 colors next to each other orthogonally. Diagonally, you can do whatever you want. So as you're drafting dice, you have to be careful not to trap yourself. At the beginning, you also draw cards that slide inside your stained glass window that have levels of difficulty, and they have certain things you need to achieve. So like certain spots will be red, which means a red dice has to go there. Or it might be the number 5, which means you have to have a dice with 5 to go there. Otherwise, you're kind of free to do whatever you want as long as you're following the rules, and hopefully you fill your whole board. And basically, whoever has the most points at the end wins, I believe. It's a point thing. I don't remember how it ends. Yes, meet objectives to gain prestige and win. Yes, it's points.
Yeah.
So that's my game.
Okay.
What have you been playing?
Well, I completely forgot the Canadian content, but I feel like hit the essence of Canadian content.
All right.
So you're talking about building a stained glass window in Spain. There's nothing Canadian about Spain.
We have
It's
stained
warm,
glass.
sunny, it's beautiful.
That's true.
On the other hand, I picked a game where there are people in toques on the box.
Nice.
So, like, it's got to be more Canadian, right? Because what's more Canadian than snow and ice in St. Petersburg, Russia?
Not much, really. Yeah. Sadly, nothing.
Yeah, so I've actually been playing an old game. This is from 2004 originally. It was republished as a second edition in 2014, and it's St. Petersburg. So St. Petersburg is a game. It's very simple. It's just a card game. There are 4 stacks of cards. You're picking out of those stacks. And the first stack gives you money. The second stack gives you points. The third stack can give you either plus their characters, and characters are worth bonuses. And the fourth stack you can use to replace existing cards. So it has all of the first 3 stacks, but it can replace the existing ones instead of just building your own new cards. So it seems so simple. It seems very straightforward. What makes it really cool is a couple things. First, each stack is a separate phase and pays off at the separate times. So you get all your money in that first phase where you buy the money cards. After that, you get very little money until you get back to that phase. So how much money do you save to go from phase to phase becomes a very important thing. And then at a certain point, you need to stop buying money buildings and start buying points. And that transition is where the game really lies. At what point do you make that transition? Do you make it too soon or too late? If you make it too late, you're not going to be able to keep up on the points race. If you make it too soon, you're going to run out of money before the end of the game, and you're not going to be able to buy the big cards that you need towards the end of the game to really make some huge points.
That's cool.
So that really cool. Now I'm going to do it. Now I'm going to do it. And if you don't, it's too late. So that's St. Petersburg. Came out in 2004. This is one of those rare games where I've never played it in person. So I'm actually talking about a game that's on Board Game Arena.
Okay.
And I've been playing it on Board Game Arena. I've always kind of wanted to, and for whatever reason, I never picked it up. I never got it to the table. I will. I'm going to correct that mistake. I really like this game. And the new second edition, which is not on Board Game Arena, apparently has quite a few of the expansions that were released for the first one included, and makes it much, much better. So I'm looking forward to that. Plus, the art's got to be better on the second one. The art on the first one, it's so bad.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's one ugly game, but it's a really neat card game. Takes maybe 30 minutes tops. It's fast. It's really nice. I like it.
Cool. So, and that one is on BGA, so I'm going to definitely check it out. And I guess everyone who's listening can also do the same.
Yeah, and while they're checking it out, they can check out our podcast.
Why not?
Definitely a board game podcast. How's that for a segue?
That was awesome. Tell them more.
You can find us wherever segues live. Yeah. Well, I blew it. All right. You can find us wherever podcasts live.
Sure.
The podcasts live in Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts. Yep. You can find us at what is it? iHeartRadio or something like that. Yeah.
Maybe.
You can find us wherever you can find your regular podcast, or you can search for Definitely a Board Game Podcast on Buzzsprout.
Yep.
And finally, you can reach us on social media at Twitter @BoardDefinitely and Facebook @DefinitelyBoard, just to make things a little complicated.
Why not? And if you want to drop us an email, definitelyboard@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that one.
I'm not sure why they'd want to, but there it is, just in case. All right, we'll see you in the next one, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye. See you next Wednesday.
Hey everybody, this is Norm from Cardboard Conjecture and Bridge City Board Gamers. We want to thank you so much for spending some time and listening to all of these fantastic content creators. I can't tell you how much I'm waiting for the first opportunity once we're able to go out into public and have social gatherings. I can't tell you how much I'm waiting to see all of these people that I get to work with indirectly every week. So that being said, let's be patient, let's make good choices, and keep your stick on the ice and take care out there, eh? This has been an episode of Whatcha Been Playing Wednesday, and it's been brought to you by the very, very cold people from Cardboard Conjecture. I'm telling you, man, this is getting cold, but we know what it's like. Take care.